Hello friends, welcome to the ATC Double Cut. I'm recording another episode today from the maintenance facility of KBC Golf Club, host of the 50th KBC Augusta Golf Tournament. And I'm going to talk about a post from when I was a golf course superintendent in Japan, to talk a little bit about summers in Japan and to set the stage for a special segment where I interviewed Andrew McDaniel, the course superintendent here at KBC Golf Club, on the course after the third round, and the staff were out doing some maintenance. So let's first keep with the concept of the ATC Double Cut by talking about one of the blog posts and some of the information there. As usual, I will put a direct link to this particular blog post that I'm discussing in the show notes, and this blog post has a title of Looking Back to a July with Record Heat and Drought. I will have a look at that, and this is a post that describes the July of 2001 in Chiba. And Chiba is a prefecture or a province or a state of Japan that is just to the east of Tokyo. It is where Narita Airport is. Many international flights, many people who have flown into Japan will have flown into Narita Airport. And if it was daytime and if you had a window seat and were looking out from the window, you may have noticed that there are golf courses spread all over on the approach into Narita Airport. There are a lot of golf courses in Chiba, and I was a golf course superintendent at one of them there called Habu Country Club from September of 2000 until August of 2001. And in the summer of 2001, Andrew McDaniel was one of the interns working for me at Habu Country Club. So it was really quite enjoyable to work with Andrew that summer. He helped me out a lot, and I referred to some of the interns and some of the work that we had to do that summer in this post. So as I was talking with Andrew out on the course earlier, I thought, yeah, we've had some fun summers together. We've done a lot of hard work in the summers. Let me find an easy blog post to talk about that won't take too long, but it's kind of interesting to reflect on and look back on, look at some data, and then then I'll be able to finish up recording this episode and play the video that I recorded with him, and I won't take up too much of your time. So this is interesting because I was reflecting on my time as a golf course superintendent in Japan, and it seemed like it was really hot that summer. We had Bermuda grass 419 tees and fairways, and we had Pencross creeping bent grass greens, and we had some cool season surrounds like approaches and aprons around the greens where Kentucky bluegrass and perennial ryegrass had a little bit of no-shiba, Zoysia japonica invading them, and the roughs at that golf course at Habu Country Club were no-shiba, Zoysia japonica. And it seemed to me, my first year working in Japan, that the summer was really hot and intense. And at that time, I didn't know how to access all of the local weather data. The Japan Meteorological Agency, the JMA, has tremendous detailed weather data from all over the country, and I've often written blog posts where I analyze some of this data. And some years later, after I had already been a golf course superintendent in Japan, after I had gone to graduate school at Cornell University and then moved to Thailand and started the Asian Turfgrass Center, I discovered that there was all of this great data available from the JMA. And I wonder what that summer when I was a superintendent in Japan, I wonder what that summer was like. So I looked it up. And in the blog post, again, I will put a direct link to that in the show notes. I start off in the blog post showing a picture of the 10th green and looking back towards the clubhouse of the par 4 10th hole. So I'm looking from behind the green, looking across the Pencross green, which was in pretty good condition, and I was happy for it to be in pretty good condition. It was beautiful light at the end of the day, so I took that picture on the 1st of July, 2001. And I mentioned that from September of 2000 to August of 2001, I was the greenkeeper, which is what a superintendent is called in Japan, at Habu Country Club in Chiba Prefecture near Tokyo. When I look at photos of the course from that month, I recall the hard work of golf course maintenance that summer. I remember that it was hot and that we had to irrigate a lot, and that I or one of the interns or employees would have to go to the course every night to check if the irrigation system was working properly. And that's because courses in Japan generally have a different type of irrigation system than the types of irrigation systems that are common at courses where you have to irrigate a lot, certainly different than the types of irrigation systems that are common at golf courses in the United States or Canada or in Southern Europe or in the Middle East. I presume most modern golf courses in Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Mauritius will also have a more type of modern irrigation system that has access to more water. But we had, if I recall right, it was 1,000 cubic meter tank, and which is 1 million liters. And if that would get too low, or if the fill pumps for that tank weren't filling it fast enough, the whole system would shut down or start shutting down one pump at a time, and we would have to go check on it and restart these pumps. And it was a bit of a hassle, and it was stressful because it was a really hot and dry summer. So in the blog post, I said, I wondered just how hot and dry it was that month. So I looked it up. The nearby Chiba weather station has data all the way back to 1966. And I made some plots to show these data, and I did this particular analysis back in 2013. So it's looking at data through July of 2012. July of 2001, that's the year that I was the superintendent there, working with Andrew McDaniel at Habu Country Club, also working with Scott Dye, who's now the golf course superintendent. Many of you will recognize the name or may know Scott. He's the golf course superintendent at Newport Beach Country Club in California. Also working with Jin-Koo Kwong was another intern. He came to us from Ori, Georgetown in South Carolina, and he's working in Korea now. I think he is originally from Korea. He went to school at Ori, Georgetown, worked at some courses in the Myrtle Beach area, did an internship for us in Japan in the summer of 2001. And now I hear from Jin-Koo Kwong, Jim Huang sometimes, depending on how we call him. I hear from him every now and then, and he's done all kinds of things in the golf industry in Korea. So it was a good, fun crew we had that summer. Anyway, I looked up the data, and July 2001 matched the previous record monthly average temperature for Chiba. That record only got broken in 2010, which was a notoriously warm summer in the Kanto region around Tokyo. So I put the average temperature for all those 47 years from 1966 all the way through 2012, and the average was about 25 degrees Celsius in July. And in July of 2001, the average temperature was about 27.5. It was more than 2.5 degrees Celsius above the long-term average. So it wasn't just my imagination. When I looked up those data, I was like, wow, I was the superintendent there. We were working together and keeping that Pencross alive and keeping that 419 irrigated and putting through a lot of rounds, working hard, keeping that irrigation system going in a year with some pretty intense temperature. And then I also looked up the data for the high temperatures. At that time, July of 2001 set a new record for average daily high temperature, breaking the previous record by almost 1 degree Celsius, and it was nearly 4 degrees Celsius above the long-term average. Now, that record was subsequently broken, which is no surprise because we tend to see increasing temperatures at many locations around the world. But at that time, July of 2001, the average high temperature Each day that month was 32 degrees Celsius, which is not ideal for cool season grass, certainly not ideal for the bent grass greens. That's going to be relevant later when I talk a little bit about the place where I am right now, KO Golf Club, which is hosting a professional golf tournament in the last week of August in a country and in a region of the country that has very high summer temperatures, which is not ideal for bent grass. Combined with that record-setting heat, I was surprised to discover that it was the driest July on record. So I didn't know any of this in real time. I was experiencing it, but because I couldn't really read the news and I was so busy working that I wouldn't have been reading the news back then anyway, and I didn't have access to all of these data, and I wasn't able to look it up, and I wouldn't have even been so interested in it back then as I am now. So it was so interesting retroactively to look back on that and say, combined with the record-setting heat, there was only 8 millimeters of precipitation that month. 8 millimeters. That's just a little over a quarter of an inch. That's less than 10% of the long-term average. Now, of course, the weather is very rarely average. The average comes from taking the average of extremes. So it's either hot or cold or dry or wet, and then when you take the average, it's normal. But you very rarely get to experience the normal kind of temperatures, and it seems like we're always experiencing something where it's hotter than usual or drier than usual or something like that. And anyway, I remember that we worked hard that summer, and here's how I closed that blog post. I said, I remember that we worked hard that summer, but at the time, I did not realize that we were working through record heat and drought. Thanks to the detailed records of the Japan Meteorological Agency, I now have a better idea of how that month compares to a typical July. And with that knowledge, I am especially grateful to the fine greenkeeping staff from that summer, a third of whom have gone on to become golf course superintendents themselves, who work so hard to maintain these conditions through that record-setting heat and drought. And I put a picture of the 14th fairway, and I believe that that's an old Jacobson fairway mower. What were those called? The LF 100 or something like that. It was an old used Jacobson machine that we had, and I believe that's Scott on the fairway mower on the par 5 15th hole at Habu Country Club back in 2001. So that was cool, and I am so thankful to the crew that we had that summer. And I like to mention that one of them is Andrew McDaniel, who is now the golf course superintendent and assistant general manager at KO Golf Club. And that's where I am now. They're hosting a professional tournament on the Japan Men's Tour, the 50th KBC Augusta Golf Tournament. And they have Korai greens. These are Zoysia greens, fine-bladed Zoysia Matrella greens. And it's really interesting because it's difficult to get good green speed and good ball roll on Zoysia greens because the leaf blades are so stiff. So that's why so many courses in Japan used to have Zoysia greens, used to have Korai greens, but they've changed to bent grass. And so most courses in Japan actually have bent grass greens because you can get better ball roll on bent grass greens. However, it's not so easy to get good ball roll on bent grass greens at the end of summer. And that's why for this particular tournament, it's held at the end of August each year. I think that's why they call it Augusta. And because it's held at the end of August and because of those temperatures, it is really good to have warm season grass and to have Zoysia greens. So I had a chance to talk with Andrew at the end of the third round, and let me bring up that interview and see if we can play this new segment here on the... Oh, right. Let me check that I have my audio that I want. I'm going to adjust my player, my recording software here, and make sure I've got that software set up. Right. All right. Looks good. No, I have to add one more thing. Okay. All right. I think we're good. Thank you for bearing with me as I get this set up. I'm going to try to play this video now. A new segment. I'm going to try sometimes to talk with a few people and maybe play some segments that if somebody's watching this in the video format, they will be able to see the video, but it should be interesting enough that we could also just listen to it. So here we go. Andrew, welcome to a new segment on the ATC Double Cut. Thank you for joining me on this.
You're welcome. I'm happy to be here.
It is the afternoon of the third round. The third round is complete at the 50th KBC Augusta tournament. I see you wearing a 50th anniversary cap.
I am.
How does it feel to be the golf course superintendent at a tournament in Japan that is so historic, that has been held for 50 years?
You know, I actually never dreamed it would happen. Being a foreigner in Japan, working at a premier golf club and having a tournament like this. But yeah, it's been great. It's my 10th tournament here, and happy to be here.
Were you here for the 40th or for the 41st?
41st, yeah.
That was the first one, okay.
Right.
Well, it's been a nice run, and the course, I have to say, I've been to most of those tournaments that you've been at, except for a couple COVID-affected ones, and the weather's been the best this week of any tournament.
It has. We have some torrential downpours during the tournament usually, where play stops and then it just messes up our whole work schedule. But this week's been really smooth. Had some rain during the night to just wetten things up a little bit, but as far as throughout the day, we've been able to get all our work done. The play's been going smooth, and it's been a great tournament so far.
And the conditions are, I would say the green conditions are better than last year. Last year, these are zoysia greens, Cori, and it's a really interesting grass and a tricky one to manage to tournament conditions in the summer. And last year there were these runners. You know, zoysia is a warm season grass. It has rhizomes and stolons. Stolons are above ground runners. Rhizomes are underground runners. And we noticed last year there were prominent runners that went, they were still under the surface of the leaves, but somehow you could see there were like old leaves and new leaves. It was a weird look.
Like a bunch of worms on top of the grass.
There were a lot of people asking what it was. It didn't look right. And so after the tournament, we did a review, and I said, you know, we haven't cored and we haven't put much sand on these greens for about 5 years.
Right.
Or not, you know, not intensively.
Right.
So in June you did coring, and a deep tine put quite a bit of sand.
Right.
And a verticut. Then you did it again in July.
Right.
And how has that worked out?
Well, overall the conditions are great. The only problem right now is we're still picking up sand with zoysia grass. For some reason, when you start getting lowering the heights down, there's some sand up in the top of the surface there that you still pick up when you lower the heights. But as far as the condition of the greens, it's much better than last year. Yeah. And
do you have any feedback from the players, or?
Other than they're not rolling as fast as they did last year, but the ball roll is much smoother and truer than it was last year.
Well, that's good. Now, tomorrow's the final round of the tournament, and I trust I've been measuring conditions, and the conditions are better than last year in terms of the quality of the roll, and I expect tomorrow morning when I get those data, it will be as good as we've ever measured here. And then
you think so?
I'm expecting that. We'll see.
Well, I'm excited to see the data tomorrow.
I am too. And then you've got after Augusta. Tell me about that.
After Augusta, so that's the day after the final round, and we just leave the course basically the same way it was prepared for the final round. But we come in and cut the greens, roll them, and all that. But yeah, we have like 55 groups scheduled to play on Monday, and the rough's kind of thick, so they'll lose a few balls, I imagine.
They'll need some four caddies.
But with
55 groups, I don't think you'll have any extra caddies.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so I measured the rough this morning. Inside the ropes, it's about 100 or 110. Yep. Well, that's just on one hole.
Right.
And outside the ropes, it was about 130.
Yeah.
That's in millimeters.
Right. On Monday, we try to cut the rough again at 80 millimeters, but then the event staff come in and start putting up ropes. So eventually we just have to just mow inside the ropes. We can't get outside the ropes.
That's during the tournament week.
Yeah, Monday of the tournament week. So on Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we mow the rough one more time, but it's mainly just inside the ropes at 80 millimeters.
Yeah, and then with the rain that you've had this week overnight, that kind of keeps the rough growing.
Yeah, so it's grown like 3 centimeters or so since then.
And can you share what the play fee is for after Augusta?
I think the play fee is 35,000 yen.
Which would be about $275 or something.
At today's rate.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, the yen is a little bit weak right now, but it's a good time to visit Japan if you're spending a different currency. So, and then I guess after the KBC Augusta tournament and after Augusta event, which when the course will be filled with people who want to play the course under tournament conditions,
right.
Then you get to cut down all this rough.
Right, we have 2 closed days after the Monday, so it'll be Tuesday and Wednesday will be closed, and hopefully we have good weather, and we'll just come in and start shaving down the rough and bring in some big shovels to shovel the rough out.
And you cut it you just cut it all the way down, or
yeah, we used to gradually cut it down, but it seemed like it just took a long time to make that happen. So yeah, we go down to 50 millimeters all at once.
So you'll take it from about 4 or 5 inches, or 4 to 6 inches down to 2 inches all at once.
Yeah, but it'll take it'll be a pretty rough cut, but it'll take us like 2 or 3 rounds to get it all evened out.
Okay. And then it starts cooling down sometime in September.
Yeah, about mid-September the weather starts cooling down, start moving into fall. Have some large patch start popping up. So that's the one thing we need to hurry to get the rough cut down so we can get that large patch application down between mid-September to late September or so.
And then you'll do another one in October, November?
Yeah, about last bit of October we'll put down another one for the rough. We do 2 apps in the rough and 1 app in the fairways.
All right. Well, I hope you get good weather for the after Augusta work, and I just want to say congratulations to you and your staff for putting on such a great. Well, you didn't put on the event, but for preparing the course in such a fine way.
Well, I appreciate that. The staff work hard. They do a great job preparing for it, and then the long hours during the tournament. Yeah, I really appreciate their hard work and your hard work getting all this data to help us out to improve the conditions next year.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I have fun. It's kind of a research project for me and something that it turns out, it surprised me at how helpful these data can be in the information that I provide to you. And it's not so much during the week. During the week, we're just collecting the data, but it's more comparing year to year, making a plan for the work that we'll do. And I am so thrilled to see that the data that we collected last year, combined with our eyes, said these greens aren't right. They're not as good as they had been in 2017, 2018, 2019. And then we came up with a solution, or hopefully a solution. We weren't quite sure. And then to see it come off so well and actually get these good results during the tournament week, it's awesome.
Yeah, you just got to try and go with your gut feeling, I guess. But yeah, the first year's set of data, it was just kind of interesting to see that daily data. But now it's after you get 10 years worth of data, it's you can build on that and try to work towards next year to improve the conditions wherever you think you might be able to.
Yeah, because we every morning, if we remember to, we try to predict the day's green speed, because we know what it was the day before and the previous week, and we know what it was the last year. So we try to predict the clipping volume, try to predict the green speed. Sometimes we try to predict scores, and we try to predict firmness sometimes, depending on what's interesting. And we can get really close because it is very predictable when we measure the data this way. I guess one more thing to close. It's been fun for me also to see some of our longtime friends from around Japan who have come to volunteer.
Yes.
Like Sato-san, Ito-san.
Ito-san, right.
And there's been superintendents and assistant superintendents and staff from all over. And it's not like tournaments in some other countries where people will come for the entire week.
Right. It makes scheduling pretty difficult, but it's fun. I enjoy them popping in if they can for 1 day or 2 days or whatnot. Sometimes they don't even come to help. They just pop in and say hi and tell us good job for the conditions and whatnot. But yeah, a lot of our old friends normally come in and help out for a couple of days if they can. One's from Tokyo this week, and the other one's from a prefecture over Yamaguchi-ken.
Yeah.
But yeah, good folks, and I enjoy having them around.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Andrew.
Thank you, Micah.
Let's go back to work.
That's right.
All right. Well, there we have that new segment. I'm not going to do that every episode, but I think when I have the chance to do an interview like that, I will try to do it and then maybe include some of those short interviews in the ATC Double Cut show. Now, if you're watching this, you can also see a nice flower display behind me, and those flowers were sent by a company that I do some work with, Royal Turf Company. Many of you will be familiar with the 007 and 777 bentgrass varieties developed or bred by Dr. Richard Hurley, and those grasses are used on many courses in Japan, not here at Kea Golf Club because Kea Golf Club has the core on the greens, but those grasses are commonly used around Japan at many places, and it's nice of Mr. Hanzawa, the owner, the president of the Royal Turf Company, to send flowers to beautify the maintenance facility and cheer everybody up this week. So it's really been great to be here, and it's great to see finally a tournament with what we might call normal weather, and because of that the course is just looking superb, and all of the efforts of the regular maintenance staff and the volunteers are really making it look good. There will be some views of this on YouTube. The KBC that puts on the tournament is a television company, and they show some of the tournament on YouTube. So if you're interested in zoysia greens or just zoysia in general, because this course has tees, fairways, roughs, and greens of zoysia, then you can check out that and see what it looks like and see how the ball rolls and see some of the ball reaction. So I will encourage you to do that if you're interested in zoysia. And one more thing I want to mention. Back in 2001, I didn't really have access to so much data, and I wasn't sure about the temperatures and the type of conditions that I was suffering through or that we were working through that time. But check out Pace Turf, paceturf.org, which I am also the director of. Pace Turf has an excellent weather service that will provide updates and site-specific climate appraisals no matter where you are in the world. So those climate appraisals look at the past 5 years of daily weather data and summarize that for you in some very interesting ways. And then Oh, hello, Andrew. Thanks for joining. I think we're having a barbecue tonight that as soon as I finish recording this, I'm going to go have a cold beer.
We're waiting for you.
Thank you. Andrew just walked by. I, as I mentioned, I am in the maintenance facility. I think they're outside having a barbecue and enjoying the nice weather. So check out Pace Turf, which has excellent weather data and stress indices and climate appraisals and all of that stuff. It's really a nice service, and many people who are golf course superintendents or turfgrass managers from around the world are taking advantage of that and getting the site-specific weather data, weather updates, and climate appraisals either available on the website or emailed to your inbox 3 times a week. So I will close with that little tip about weather. If you are suffering through heat and drought and difficult conditions, Pace Turf can be a really useful resource, and it's only $275 per year for a subscription, which is a heck of a value. I will sign off now for ATC from Fukuoka, Japan, and say thank you for listening. Thanks for watching, and I will be back soon with another interesting turfgrass topic. Bye-bye.